303 collection development. This morning we are going to discuss community analysis. But first, let me revise what we did last week. Last week was our introductory class, and where we looked at the different elements of collection development. There were 6 elements that we highlighted last week, and they are community analysis, collection development policy, selection, acquisition, reading, and evaluation. This morning we'll be discussing community analysis. What is community analysis? Community analysis is an attempt to know the information needs of the people in a particular community. The next question you will ask is, what is a community? A community is a group of people living together and who share some things in common. Why do you need to do a community analysis? Everybody needs information. Information is relevant to make decisions, and everybody needs information. Information need is therefore a gap in the knowledge possessed by an individual. Why is community analysis important? Community analysis is important to know the people in a community. Community analysis is also important to know the demographic characteristics of the people living in a particular community. Knowing their demographic characteristics, you will also be able to know their information needs through community analysis. Having known their information needs, this will enable the library and information professional to know the sources of information that should be provided to satisfy the information needs that have been identified in a particular community. Types of data to collect. For any community analysis, there are some specified data that should be collected that will be able to enable the library and information professional to determine the information needs of the users in a particular community. The first one we'll be discussing is the demographic data. This includes the type of people, their age, you want to know their gender, their occupation, highest academic, educational qualification, you want to know the language they speak, the ethnic groups that are common in that community. You want to also know their health status. The second data that we need to collect as a library and information professional is the geographic and transportation. These include the number of service points that will be needed. You want to know the location distance from one service point to another. You want to know the location of their residence to the place in which you want to provide the library and information center. You want to know how long it's going to take them to be able to get there. The third data that you need to collect as a library and information professional is the historical data. This has to do with the background of the community, that is, their norms, their beliefs, their peculiarities, and their present status. The fourth data that should be collected for community analysis is economic data. This involves how to source for income, the plan, how you plan for the collection. You want to know the main source of income, other sources of funding, okay, that would enable you to continually provide the information sources that are required to satisfy the information needs of the users. The fifth type of data to collect is the legal data. You want to know who holds the authority. You want to know the legal restriction of materials. You want to know the bodies to be accountable for. Who are those that have authority within that community? The sixth data to be collected is the political data. This has to do with the present political party that is in that community, attitude of the political leaders to establishing a library or information center, the distribution of the people according to party affiliations, and the powerful individuals in the community who may be useful instruments in establishing the library or providing decisions for the community. Having known about the different data that should be collected, now we want to see sources of information. The first one we'll be discussing this morning is the key informants. Who are the key informants in the community? These are the religious leaders, the officers of association, the chiefs, the elders of that community. Then how do you collect information? Using key informants. You interview the key informants, who could be religious leaders, who could be officers of associations, who could be the chiefs in the particular community, to be able to collect information on the needs. What is the advantage of using key informants as a source of information? The first one is that it is easy to implement. It also helps in sensitizing leaders about the library. This source of information also has a disadvantage, and the disadvantage is that the information may be subjective because you are just using few people in that community who you believe should provide information that should be representative of the community. But in some cases, the information provided may not be representative. The second source of information is the survey approach. This is use of sampling to collect data. How can this be done? This can be done using the questionnaire or the interview schedule. You can use the questionnaire if the population is large, but if the population is not very large, an interview schedule could be used. What is the advantage of using the survey approach to collect information? The survey approach will provide reliable data, and it is also useful for large population. However, the disadvantage is that the data may be inaccurate if it's not properly designed and administered. We have discussed two sources of information. Anybody has any question? We've looked at key informant as a source of information. We've also looked at the survey approach. Anybody has any question or comments before we go on? The third source of information we are going to discuss today is the community forum. This involves having a gathering of people in a particular community, and this can be done if the library and information professional has the support of the chief or the leader in that community. How can this be done? This can be done through publicizing through the radio, the mass media, radio, television, or going through the leaders who will be able to reach the people and tell them that there is going to be a meeting and encourage all of them to attend the meeting. What is the advantage of using community forum as a source of information? One major advantage of this source of information is that it allows individuals to say their information needs and the kind of services that they require. The disadvantage is that if it is a large population, this source of information is not effective because it will lead to rowdy situation. It will not be able to, the library and information professional may not be able to get reliable data since there will be a lot of distraction because the people in the group are too many for the library and information professional to manage. The fourth and the last one we are going to discuss today is the social indicators. Don't forget that we are looking at sources of information wherein you could use to collect data to know the community analysis for collection management as a library and information professional. So the last one we are going to discuss is the social indicators. These social indicators are using certain characteristics of a particular community to determine their information needs. How do you do this? You can do this through population distribution, through social demographic factors, wherein we look at the age, gender, income, education. You could also use the health and social well-being, looking at the social amenities that are available, looking at the housing facilities. These social indicators could be obtained from census, they could be obtained from unions, associations, organizations, etc. What are the advantages? The advantage of using the social indicator is that information needs may be easily gathered from data other than the people. You do not need to have meetings with the people. You do not need to distribute questionnaire to the people. And this allows time not to be wasted. Disadvantage of this social indicator is that it may not be the immediate needs of the people if the data that you are using have not been recently compiled. That is, the data may not be very accurate depending on the duration and the last time it was gathered. Any question on community analysis? Any comments? We have come to the end of the lecture for today, but you should check your Yahoo group for discussion on this topic we have discussed today. Thank you. See you next week.